Today, we're diving into something massive. The entire history of the United States of America. From rebellious colonies to a global superpower, the U.S. journey is one of ambition, conflict, and endless transformation. So, strap in, because we're about to speed through more than 240 years of action-packed history. Imagine this: a nation born out of defiance, built on diversity, and powered by relentless innovation. From the Pilgrims' humble landing at Plymouth Rock to Neil Armstrong's giant leap on the moon, the United States story is like no other. You'll be shocked at how quickly this young nation surged onto the world stage. Let's start where it all began, the early 1600s. Picture it. In 1607, a small group of British settlers founds Jamestown, Virginia. Then, just over a decade later in 1620, the Pilgrims make their iconic landing at Plymouth Rock. Over the next century, 13 British colonies take root along the eastern seaboard. But as the colonies thrived, tension with Britain grew. By the mid-1700s, the colonies had had enough of British taxes and control. You know something big is about to happen, right? Cue the revolution. Events like the Boston Tea Party and the Intolerable Acts pushed the colonies to the breaking point. And then, in 1776, boom, the Declaration of Independence. Written primarily by Thomas Jefferson, it was the ultimate breakup letter to Britain. But independence didn't come easy. The Revolutionary War began in 1775, lasting until 1783. Against all odds, the scrappy American colonies pulled off the impossible, defeating the world's greatest empire with some timely help from France. In 1783, the Treaty of Paris made it official. The United States was born. But wait, this is just the beginning. After winning independence, the young nation needed a government. Enter the U.S. Constitution, written in 1787, which built the foundation for a federal system. And in 1789, George Washington became the first president, guiding the nation through its infancy. Now let's talk expansion. In 1703, President Thomas Jefferson pulls off the ultimate land deal, the Louisiana Purchase, doubling the size of the nation overnight. Americans embraced the idea of manifest destiny, the belief that they were destined to expand across the continent. But as the U.S. grew, so did its conflicts, with Native Americans, neighboring Mexico, and even within its own borders. By the 1860s, the biggest issue dividing the nation was slavery. In 1861, the southern states seceded, forming the Confederacy, and the U.S. descended into its bloodiest conflict, the Civil War. For 4 brutal years, under President Abraham Lincoln's leadership, the Union fought not only to keep the country together, but to end the moral stain of slavery. Finally, in 1865, the Union emerged victorious, and the 13th Amendment was passed, officially abolishing slavery. But the wounds of the war were deep, and the country struggled through a difficult era of Reconstruction. Fast forward to the late 1800s, the U.S. transformed again during the Industrial Revolution. Railroads crisscrossed the country, factories sprang up, and big business boomed, turning the U.S. into an economic powerhouse. Immigrants flooded in, chasing the promise of the American dream. But with rapid growth came tough challenges. Workers faced terrible conditions, giving rise to labor unions, and social tensions ran high. As the 20th century dawned, the U.S. began flexing its muscles on the world stage. In 1917, America joined World War I, tipping the balance in favor of the Allies. But then came the crash, the Great Depression of 1929, the worst economic crisis the country had ever faced. Enter Franklin D. Roosevelt, who launched the New Deal, a series of ambitious programs to revive the economy. Just as the nation was recovering, the world plunged into World War II. The U.S. emerged from the war as a superpower and quickly entered into a high-stakes rivalry with the Soviet Union, known as the Cold War. For decades, the U.S. and Soviet Union raced to build bigger arsenals, win the space race, and fight proxy wars in places like Korea and Vietnam. But the U.S. wasn't just about wars and politics. It was also a time of cultural shifts, scientific breakthroughs, and social revolutions. The country witnessed the civil rights movement, the counterculture of the 1960s, and the eventual collapse of the Soviet Union, bringing an end to the Cold War in 1991. And that's where we leave off. A nation that started from a handful of rebellious colonies now stands as a global leader. But the story of the United States is far from over. In fact, it's still being written every day.